You lose.
Final Fantasy XVI is a good game, but a better TV show. What do I mean by this? Well, the gameplay is great. It is my favourite implementation of the Kingdom Hearts style brand of gameplay that Square Enix have fallen in love with these past few years, but I think it's kind of outshone by how good the cutscenes are in the game. In fact, I'd say it's like a TV show you can play. I'm not going to spoil any of the story for you here, don't worry, I won't be spoiling any major plot points after the title card of the game appears, which is about 2.5 hours in. This is also our first proper video recorded in HDR, so if things look a little off, please don't hesitate to let me know. You know, new to this kind of thing. If you're new to the channel, this is also a format we haven't done in a while, and it's just a quick thought series rather than a full in-depth review, so it's a little more basic than the big reviews we've been doing recently. Final Fantasy XIV is my favourite game of all time, which is kind of a surprise since I'm not really a huge fan of the Final Fantasy series, or the MMO style of game. I love this game so much that I'd comfortably say that every year an expansion is released, it could probably be my contender for that year's Game of the Year. Being so familiar with the game, however, has kind of opened my eyes to a few telltale signs from the creators. From the story, which focuses heavily on the political tensions between the countries of Etheirys, to the world having a lot of grand dilapidated structures, both natural and man-made, topped off with a genre-spanning soundtrack by Masayoshi Soken. When I booted up Final Fantasy XVI and was greeted with this, I knew I was in good hands. Right off the bat, we've got all three of those things, and that kind of extends throughout the rest of the game. If you told me that this was a version of 14 from an alternate reality where it was a single-player game, I'd say, yeah, that tracks. The only real differentiator is the gameplay itself, which, outside of having tab targeting like 14, bears little resemblance to that game. It's a variation on the Kingdom Hearts style of gameplay, but I think it's the best implementation of it so far. Gone is the fiddly menu, and in is splitting the controller in half. The D-pad is in charge of the items and party members. You combine 3 hotkeys to up, right and down, and the left button switches between modes, which are colour coded too so you can see at a glance what it is you're controlling. The face buttons are used for attacks and abilities. By default, square is your melee, triangle is your long range attack, circle is your special ability, and cross is your jump. Holding down the attack button gives you a charged version of these attacks, holding R2 gives you access to your abilities, you combine 2 for every elemental magic and switch between the elements with L2. You only have access to fire at the start but will unlock more as the game goes along. L1 locks you onto an enemy, and R1 lets you dodge attacks. Eventually you'll unlock a limit break which will let you press L3 and R3 to give you a temporary boost in attack damage. And that's it. It's fairly simple on the face of it, so how does it keep it interesting? Well, the gameplay is very reactionary. If you don't learn how to dodge or parry attacks, you're not going to have a good time. You can't just mindlessly attack, you have to take note of what's going on. Of course, a lot of the attacks are telegraphed in a similar way to how they are in 14 with things like AoE markers, so it did come fairly quickly to me. Does this mean that the game is hard? Not in the slightest, which could be one of the gameplay's biggest weaknesses. The aim of the game is patience. There can be a lot of time in a game where you aren't doing meaningful damage, but rather just waiting for another chance to strike. This can make the gameplay a little repetitive, because once you realise the pattern of one boss, you've kind of got them all. A couple of small attacks, followed by a big attack, followed by a rest period. There is an additional component, the stamina system. As you do more attacks, this will decrease. Once it reaches the halfway point, the boss will start taking more damage. When it reaches empty, the boss will rest for a bit, and your attacks will do even more damage. This means that you're probably going to want to play it fairly relaxed for the first half of the stamina bar, only doing basic attacks, or ones that chew through the stamina like the wind-based abilities, then ramping it up during the second half of the bar. By the time it's empty, your limit break bar would have filled, so just use that and dump the remaining abilities you haven't used into the boss, and then start the whole process over. I can confidently say that most bosses will take you 2.5 cycles. Fight down, fight dead. And it's this clockwork nature of the game that makes it feel a little repetitive in this regard. It didn't matter if it was the first boss or some mad monster like this, they all kind of felt the same, and I think for some people this could be a sticking point. For me, yeah, it did kind of get a bit grinding towards the middle third of the game. In fact, I can count the amount of times I died on one hand, and all of them were because I wasn't paying attention. And not all of them were to bosses either. I'm not good at games, so, you know. You should know by now. Come on. Occasionally you will get to control an icon. Basically, one of the monsters that the Final Fantasy series has become famous for, and these are exactly what they look like. Mostly just spectacle. I will not deny that there is something really satisfying about piloting a large creature that has weight behind its attacks. At one point you will fight a creature that dwarfs your icon, and that fight is 100% spectacle, 0% skill, but I was pleased with it, legitimately so much fun. So yeah, the game is easy and there are options to make it easier, but not more difficult. From the start there's a story mode and an action mode, depending on what you're here for, but you may switch between the two at any point. You also get items throughout your journey, either through gifts, the shop, or crafting. Weapons, belts, and van braces just boost the stats as normal, but accessories give you additional effects. Some of these accessories make the game easier by auto-completing abilities for you. Others boost the effects of potions or reduce cooldowns. As for getting items, honestly, you're going to pick up enough materials through just the main story to craft everything you need and then upgrade it. In fact, crafting feels a bit pointless. There's only ever one thing worth crafting, and you'll never have to look for materials, as you seem to get everything you need just through normal gameplay, so it basically just acts as a secondary currency for items, which is fine. I hate to be a nag, but seriously, I think the gameplay in this game is good overall. I never did get frustrated or bored, even if it did come close at points. I would happily say though that gameplay wise, this would definitely be a great game for someone who's never played Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts before. It'll be a lot of fun. It is an RPG in the loosest sense, however. It's very linear, side quests are somewhat meaningless.
Dark, rich, fragrant.
Dark, rich, and fragrant.
I did them all up until about the 50% mark and then gave up. And there's no real dialogue options. That's not to say, however, that this game is for kids. The game has an 18+ rating and it deserves it. It has quite a few gruesome scenes that I don't think I can even show in this video without getting it age restricted. Okay, so let's focus on my favourite part of the game and why I think it elevates it from being good to great. The story. What you should know about me is I like slow burning stories. Sopranos, Severance, and a third show that starts with S are some of my favourite shows, and they're mostly just dialogue. Well, that's what you're getting here in 16. There's a lot of political discussions, people sitting around tables debating the news of the day. This is even reflected in the way scenes are filmed and edited. It genuinely feels like a HBO show. I was half expecting Tony Soprano to walk out at any moment and say, "What murder?" I did say I wouldn't spoil the story, but if you like the shows mentioned above, it is very similar in pace, and I'd recommend it just for that alone. Honestly, I get so wrapped up in the cutscenes that I forget that this is a game, and I'm surprised when I have to do something.
We'll meet you there.
It's bloody rude, isn't it? One thing though is you do notice you can't just visit a place, you've got to solve some sort of problem. There's one about 3/4 of the way through the game where there's this bit where you arrive in a town and the person you're meeting says, "Oh, I lost my pass to get through the gate," and I audibly said, "Oh, fuck off." I guess I will take this opportunity to quickly mention the dialogue itself.
You swore you'd avenge your brother's death, that you'd never rest until you'd hunted down the man responsible. So, find out if this man's responsible and kill yourself if he's not.
If it wasn't clear with Final Fantasy XIV that the team has a slight fascination with the slang and dialects of the British Isles, then this game confirms it.
Crystal fetters are a bastard to open, just so you know. Don't worry, I'll have them off before you can blink.
Where's Jill?
In the courtyard.
Shit.
It is genuinely so weird to hear authentic British and Irish dialogue from something that wasn't made over here.
You cock.
It's hard to explain, but I'm sure you can relate to a program or film that is set in your country but not made there. And yet some of the dialogue in this game is so perfect.
Sneaky sods.
Man, was this character voiced by my dad? If you've ever played Fable 2, it is very similar in tone to that with regards to its dialogue. Also, I want to point out the attitude towards swearing.
Fucking duck!
In America, yeah, you'll say crap, maybe bastard or shit. Whew, what are you, 12? Over here in the UK, we say fuck with a capital F. Shit, bugger, lummox, maybe drop a C word here or there. Not brave enough to say that one yet in earshot of my dad. We tend to use it to punctuate feelings rather than just an expression, and this game replicated that perfectly.
You always were a fucking snake, Sid.
Poor sod. I'd invite him over for a cup of tea if I didn't think he'd eat the dog.
I hope you've got a plan, Clive, because we are fucked if you don't.
All the voice actors fit the characters, especially Ralph Ineson as Sid. If you grew up in the UK during the 2000s, you have definitely heard his voice from every advert ever made.
Screw blockbusters, screw Bob Holness, and screw your gold rush.
Alex Lindopkin as Hugo was in the very popular Spooks.
There is a literal sea twixt you and your prize.
The main characters are voiced by Ben Starr and Susanna Fielding, who I must admit I've never really seen anything they've been in, but they were good to listen to.
This island is a natural fortress.
But safety breeds complacency.
Finally, let's get to the visual side of the game. This game looks beautiful, locations look amazing, characters are animated fantastically with even the smallest facial expressions, and all of this does come at a price. I played on the frame rate prioritized mode because I'm a filthy PC gamer, but the game does struggle to keep a constant frame rate. It can be a choppy experience, but luckily it doesn't seem to affect combat too much, which is good. So to conclude, I definitely do recommend this game for someone who's looking for a game with a lot of depth in its story and dialogue. I do think that if you're looking for a game with a similar depth to its gameplay, you might not be in for the best time. But it's a great game regardless, and I'm recommending this one, giving it the big thumbs up, the big yes. I don't have any more analogies, just buy the game if you have a PS5. If you don't, it is a bugger it's not on other platforms at the moment, as it's very good, but keep an eye out for it just in case. Alright, I'm leaving now, goodbye, love ya, see ya.